This week on the podcast, the how do you knows of retirement planning. Like when we were kids and we'd ask, well, how do you know this? And how do you know that? Had all those inquisitive questions. This week, Donna and I are going to talk about some of those, and she's going to break them down here on Wisdom and Wealth.
This is Donna, and this is Jim, each with a family that had to begin again. As they've brought their worlds together, they've learned a lot about blending families and finances along the way. Now, they're here to help you take on this new chapter with clarity and confidence. This is Wisdom and Wealth, financial clarity for families in transition.
Hey, everybody, welcome into the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with Donna, Kendrick, and myself as we talk investing and finance and retirement here on the podcast. What is going on, Miss Donna? How are you?
We're doing very good. I'm excited to record this one. I loved when I was little, asking my mom why about everything. Why?
You were a why kid.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did not appreciate it.
Yeah,
She
well.
wanted me to be one of those quiet kids in the corner. Just that's not what we got. But this is going to be fun.
Now, did you get paid back with one of your kids being that way as well? Asking you why all the time?
No, I can honestly say I did not, because they grew up for most of their very young youth while we lived in Italy. So they were just so shell shocked about the whole language confusion thing that they just got very quiet for a very long time. So I was like, all right.
Well, I'm with you though. Same thing. I was, why is the sky blue? It just is, or why is the grass green? And they maybe would start to say, well, chloroform and and you go, okay, why? And it's like, all right, stop. I don't know. I don't know the answers anymore, So it's one of those fun things, though. I think as we age, Donna, we really never stop asking questions. At least I hope we don't, right?
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about all the different aspects of life that you could certainly do that in, finance is one of those big ones where hopefully we are still asking lots of questions because it's important stuff. So let's dive in. I'm going to give you some of the top how do you knows. And you tell us, how do we know, right? You fill us in on
let's
that.
go for it.
Number one, how do you know how much income you're going to need in retirement? Kind of important.
Yep. Most of my clients, when they come to me as prospects or not my client yet, they want the answer to, am I going to be okay? Now, a lot of that is because many of my clients have been through widowhood or divorce or blended families. It's almost as if the rules are new, right? Like they kind of had a good idea before. Everything's changed. Maybe income's changed, or maybe now all of a sudden they have more life insurance. Who knows? And so when they're actually backing into how much am I going to need for retirement? It's a loaded question, right? We can say very easily most times, if you have a robo-advisor, it's going to take what you actually live on right now, what you earn, and take 70 to 80% and project that out, thinking that you won't be supporting kids at that point in time. Your mortgage will probably be paid off, right? And then they'd say, okay, and then divide that by 12, and that's what you need, right? But then we have so many other things that input, right? Like, what are your goals in retirement? Are you going to be traveling all the time? Are you staying in your house, right? As well as, do you plan on working part-time? Because retirement feels different for many of us, right? Like, we're not just sitting in our lazy boy like my dad with a soda can. But what I always like to say is, nowadays is, let's see if we can afford the way you live right now in retirement, right? Like, let's see if we can afford it. And then we can either flex up maybe those wonderful travel goals when we have time, or we'll even bring it back down, right? Because maybe you won't be in the big old McMansion, right? Because all the kids are out of the house. Who knows?
I like that, the McMansion. Yeah, so you might have to find out if your retirement plan needs to pump a little iron, right, to beef up a little bit for the income needs. But yeah, I mean, you got to figure out the income needs, and I guess that's a prospect or a matter of figuring out the expenses. Then, right? You really kind of want to figure out what you're spending to have the lifestyle that you'd like to maintain, and then that kind of helps you backdoor the income. Is that correct?
Exactly. And there's two different ways. We can do your total lifestyle, like in general, how much does it cost you to be you right now? Necessary expenses as well as discretionary ones. And then we can kind of put a little withdrawal strategy to that, or a little reduction to it, so that you know what the savings goal will feel like. What do we have to save today with whatever type of growth we have in the funds to predict that amount on a monthly basis? Or we can do it, and this is how I like doing it, is the basic living expense. What does it cost for you for the necessities of life? To keep the lights on, to feed yourself in the way you feel appropriate, right? Like, it could be hot dogs, it could be organic food. Which one do you want it to be? Some of them have different price tags on them, right? Where do you want to live? And then we kind of layer on top of it. Here's healthcare and retirement. Here's our out-of-pocket expenses. Here's our travel and retirement. Here's if we want to pay for weddings. Here's if we want to leave a legacy. So that those little pieces can go up and down, and you can really start to see, do I have to save more? Do I have to work longer? Do I have to spend less? And that's going to get you to that retirement number.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I like that. And you said organic, and then you said hot dogs, and it made my brain go, is there such a thing as organic hot dogs?
The vegan ones? It's
don't
not
know,
really
maybe.
a hot dog, though.
That's not
I
really a
don't know.
hot dog, though. Yeah.
Yeah, no. It's
Well,
like-
hey, what's the topic of our show? How do you know? And here I am coming up
true.
with random questions.
People can type in. Let us know.
Yeah. In the comments on YouTube, if there's organic hot dogs, leave a comment and let us know. Will you? I'm curious about that now. All right. So number 2, Donna, how do you know how much money you should have in your savings account?
Yeah.
COVID hopefully taught some people that, hey, you need to have some emergency money in case crazy things happen.
Yeah, and that is one of I call it like the 3 pillars to the foundation of every financial plan we do. Your cash reserve. That's how much money should you have in savings, right? The other pillar is healthcare and retirement, and then your retirement cost. So let's talk about your cash reserve. And I talk about this all the time. If you have 2 streams of reliable income, both you and your husband or both you and your wife are W-2, pretty confident that you're going to be able to keep your job, then you go ahead and you say, okay, so we need 3 months of what it cost us to be us, right? Put into cash reserve. And again, I say that's not lifestyle. Those are the basic living expenses. So sit down one afternoon and write a chart of where do we spend our money, right? Basic living expenses are things like utilities and mortgage and car payment and insurances, right? Medical insurance, car insurance. I pay my insurance annually at the beginning of each year. So many times when we're doing our savings goal per month, it's very easy to kind of ignore that $300 a month bill, right? But we do have to add it back in. So put that money and you have 3 months of that in your cash reserve. If you're on your own, make that 6 months or more, right? Because when we have 2 people earning an income, there's a little bit of coverage there, right? So, but when you're on your own, when I was in widowhood, I had more than 6 months, right? Because that was my comfort level. That's another thing. Many of us might have been raised by parents that might not have been financially savvy, but they were very conservative and they had a lot of money in cash. I come from a generation of hide it in the wall and plaster over it, right? Not that I am not offering for anyone to do that. No,
Yep.
SED.
My
is
grandmother did
beautiful.
apparently I never met one of my grandmothers, but apparently she did the actual coffee can in the yard thing.
Yeah.
So she
Bury it in the backyard.
Yeah, she
0 on
literally
the
did
risk
that
score.
apparently. Yeah, exactly.
I still think it's big.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you just mentioned the word risk because that's number 3. So how much risk should we be taking with our investments? How do you know how much risk? But should I change that to how do you know how much risk in general with your finance, not just investments?
Exactly, because there's 2 very different things. How do we personally feel about risk, right? What is that feeling in our belly, or what will make us so scared? What will be a trigger in the economy, in the financial world that will make you say, I'm pulling all my money out of the market, right? Like what's going to
Going to the
make
coffee
you
can, right?
Yeah, what's going to make you feel sick, right? That's one of the things to gauge. And many of us can be risk takers, right? I say from 0 to 100, bury it in the backyard, 0. Going to Atlantic City, all on red, that's the 100, right? And I know even my husband, Jim, and I are very different. I'm more on the conservative side. He's a little bit more like, well, let's just run it, right? Like he's more on that 100 side. So we have to find somewhere in the middle as a couple that we can tolerate one another in our decisions. But more than anything else, when we predict how much do we need for retirement, we compare it to what we have saved, we might not have to take that much risk for our overall nest egg or overall retirement because maybe we've saved ahead. Maybe we're good. So for the lifestyle we want and we can predict, maybe we can take some of that risk out there for our long-term savings. And then if Jim wants to express himself with his 0 to 100 risk score, then maybe he gets a little pool of money that he can go invest on his own and take that risk and satisfy that need. But as a financial planner, we're looking at your age, your ability to save, your ability to earn, what lifestyle you're looking to have, your income and your goals. We're looking for all of those, your experience in the marketplace, right? Your opportunities for saving, your cash reserve. That's really what's going to tell us as advisors how much risk you have to take. Some of my clients are playing catch up. They have to take more risk to try to make that money grow. It's a hard conversation.
Yeah, it's the reality of things. And, you think about risk in general as we're aging. I joke all the time that I no longer jump on a skateboard like I did when I was 17 now, so it's like I don't take that risk because the reward is not there. And financially speaking, the same thing's going to come into account. What kind of risks are you comfortable taking at this age versus a prior age? So just make sure that you're having those questions asked and answered as well. All right. So how do you know, Donna, how long your retirement savings need to last? Now, not your emergency fund like we just talked about a minute ago, but your total nest egg, I suppose.
Yeah, and this is retirement savings. That would be things like your 401k, your 403b, IRAs. If you're planning to use the value of your home or a business to support retirement, that's kind of what we're talking about. And I actually often debate many of my clients, and you've heard me say I'm an optimist who worries, right? Because I say we plan for women to live till 94, gentlemen to 92. And I want to make sure that their retirement lasts for that lifeline. And if they really have something called legacy planning, where they want to leave gifts, right, after they pass, then that's even bigger for that. How long does it have to last? Because you want to leave a little nest egg at the end. But more than anything, it's a matter of what kind of spend do you want early on in retirement, and do you want that to carry all the way through? Right. So how long can it last? We can actually have different buckets of, okay, when I am 70 to 85, I'm traveling, right? And then 85 to 95, most likely I won't be skateboarding or jumping on the planes every now and then, right? So maybe we can reduce that.
You can project that, right? You can stress test and project those different scenarios, because you may have couple A who wants to spend more early, right? Versus couple B who doesn't. So that gives you that flexibility to really highlight and show that to people, correct?
Yep, exactly. And so that's where we have that value of conversation. And that's where we bring up, how long do we want your money to last? 92 and 94. And some of my other clients are just like, no one in my family has lived past 75. So forget it. Right. I'm still going to go ahead because I don't want you to last to 91 and be calling me at 88 being like, out of funds. I'm going to feel really bad. So sorry, 92 for men. That's where we are.
Well, when you first think about this question, how long do you want your retirement to last? People go, until I'm no longer here,
End of
and I don't
plan.
know what. Yeah. And I don't know what that number is, and neither do you, right? So that's why, you've got to stress it out. You've got to run it out to a later number than maybe you even think is possible. Because if you're wrong, now you're going to be trying, do you want to go, work at Walmart if you're 92? Probably not, right? So, so you got to stretch that stuff out, make sure that it's there. And I think that all comes back together too, because all of these levers really play together. They pull one, another goes, because if you think about one thing, it affects the other thing, and so on and so forth, because how much you want to spend in the early years is going to affect this, and how much you're trying to save, and blah blah blah. So they all work together. That's the importance of getting a strategy put together, so that you know what you can do comfortably and with confidence. All right, so final one then on the how do you knows. How do you know if your retirement strategy is tax efficient? Well, if you're giving more to Uncle Sam than feels comfortable with, then it might not be as efficient as it could be. Then again, it might be, but you got to find out.
Yeah, it's true. And you have to really also think, we don't have a crystal ball, right? So do you think by the time you're in retirement, are we going to be in a higher or a lower tax bracket for our income? Now, that's just wondering, what do we think our nation's going to do? But that also could be, are you planning on having passive streams of income through, maybe you own a small business, right? That's going to increase where you are when your RMD, required minimum distribution, at 73, or maybe it's going to be 75 by the time we get older. Mark, who knows? Think so. But where tax bracket will we be in? And if we can predict that, at least with some reasonable considerations of what you really think your streams of retirement are going to be, then we can start deciding now, where do we save? Is it better to be saving tax deferred, maybe because you're trying to qualify for financial aid for your kids' education? Or is it time to go ahead and say, we're going to pay taxes now, and we're going to do Roth savings because I'm going to be in a much higher tax bracket in retirement? And you have to make those choices. The choice is different for every financial situation. There are rules of thumb, but the choice is different.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly in the time period we're in right now, Donna. It's one of those things where hey, it doesn't hurt to be wrong, I think, by getting tax efficient now, because it's the devil in what you know. You know what the tax rates are for various things. So if you do make a decision and you are sort of wrong about something, it's probably not going to be that detrimental. Even if tax rates didn't change at all in the next, let's say, 10 years, they kind of have to. I think we all agree on that. But just say they didn't. Well, what did it really hurt you just because you went ahead and did some Roth conversions? Now, probably nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, but you won't know until you run the math.
Yep. And you just said one of my favorite words, Roth. I love Roth,
right?
Whether it's because you're if you want to contribute to a Roth IRA, you have to be under income limits.
Sure.
Every year, the U.S. government tells you as a couple or individually, how much can you make to still be able to save that $7,000 or $8,000 with catch up into a Roth. And you might not be able to, right? So maybe you can only save into a Roth through 401k. So you want to understand your ability to save into a Roth so you can take advantage of the offering from your employer sponsored plan. And then, when you do quote unquote semi-retire before RMDs kick in, Roth conversions, beautiful thing.
Well, and you mentioned something there with this employee-sponsored plans. More and more of those now have Roth 401k components being offered. So that helps with some of the income limit issues. So it may be worthwhile, if you're still working, to ask your HR department if that's something that you guys now have available. Because I know a lot of advisors are like, hey, this is kind of the nice blend of both worlds. You have the limit changes by it being a 401k, but it's tagged in the tagged in the Roth kind of component. So you get the kind of the best of both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And for many people who have higher income limits and they can't save into a traditional Roth IRA, this is their only ability to get Roth savings into their plan. And maybe they don't have that because they just save tax deferred because that's what mom and dad told us to do all along, without thinking about this tax sensitivity or thinking about how amazing they were going to be in the middle of their life career, right? Earning all of this income. But the one thing I always stress is, if you are going to move into 401k Roth savings, make sure you're understanding the taxable consequence on your W-2, right?
Okay.
Talk to your HR. Make sure you adjust your withholdings because you're actually paying taxes on the funds before you put them into the 401k.
Yes. Okay. Great point. Thank you for highlighting that as well. And I think, you talk about kind of been used to using the traditional 401 or traditional IRA. And Roth is one of your favorite ones. Maybe if they called it Rothy, it would be cuter. and more people would talk about it.
Little branding.
Yeah, little Rothy, right? So, all right. Well, there you go. So that's some 5 how do you knows. And of course, if you need some questions answered so that you know the things you need to know, then get yourself on the calendar and have a conversation with qualified professionals like Donna. She's a certified financial planner and a certified financial divorce analyst or divorce financial analyst. So get yourself on the calendar, have a conversation, reach out to her at seftonfinancial.com. That's seftonfinancial.com. Don't forget to check the show notes for the descriptions and links and all that good stuff we have in there for you on each episode, whether you're checking us out on Apple or Spotify or YouTube. And that way you can catch new episodes when they come out of Wisdom and Wealth. Donna, thanks for hanging out and breaking it down.
Thanks so much, Mark. Have a great week.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time here on Wisdom and Wealth with Donna Kendrick from Sefton Financial.
Registered representative offering securities through Cetera Financial Specialists LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Cetera Investment Advisors LLC. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Sefton Financial LLC and Cetera are not affiliated. Sefton Financial is located at 8200 Flowertown Avenue, Suite 1B in Windmore, Pennsylvania, 19038.